Basketball fans everywhere, it's time to celebrate. Undersized point guards everywhere who play basketball at the NBA level, mostly for the Atlanta Hawks. I'm sorry. Things are going to get a little bit more tough. Things are going to get a little bit more difficult now. But anyway, this is NBA news. So first of all, for the first 2 minutes of this video, let's just talk a little bit about the Olympics again. The All-Star 5, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, and Patty Mills, Ricky Rubio, and Rudy Gobert. I do not think they could have picked a better 5. I do not think they could have picked a better 5. I just want to see what the reaction to this is. Drew Holiday, maybe Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday for Rubio. I wouldn't have been upset by that. I would not have been upset by that. I have just realized I'm quite see-through right now, but it is what it is. I would not have been upset by that. Luka getting into the 5, not being able to perform, you're an idiot. That's straight up. If you question Luka Doncic being in the 5, instead of Rubio, who lost to Luka Doncic, and then lost, although he did play well against America, still. That's like blaming Luka Doncic for his 18-point, 18-assist game against France. Tybal, you know what? Debatable. Mike Toby. No, I think they got it perfect. I think they got it perfect right there. I genuinely think they got it perfect. But now, we have got the main purpose of this video. To talk about the rule change to prevent non-basketball moves to draw fouls. We have been asking for this for years, and thank God, because you know what that means? It is no longer part of basketball to actively try to not score. I'm just saying. You could have a wide open lane to the you could have an open lane to the basket, but if you're an 80% free throw shooter, or if you're an 90% free throw shooter, and someone's in the air, you are best off actively trying not to score and jumping into them. If you throw up a shot fake and a three-pointer and someone jumps, it's better. You're better off, instead of getting someone in the air, driving by them, just jumping into them. It is one of the most ridiculous rules, and thank God they're doing something about it, because it ruins the game of basketball. Just a heads up. The NBA, there's a reason why a lot of people don't tune into long NBA or full NBA games anymore. Because one, you can see everything in the highlights. The NBA is has the best highlights. It's the best standard of basketball, without question in the world. The players are better. But you saw in the Olympics, it was so much easier to watch a full game because there wasn't whistles being blown every 5 seconds. There were a lot of fouls. Don't get me wrong, the off-ball fouls fighting in the post was called a lot more. I'm not saying that the referees were great at the Olympics, by no means, but the rules were probably a bit better. The off-the-rim rule, give or take, it is what it is. The fact that that's a rule at FIBA, you can hit it off the rim, you can in America, it doesn't make much of a difference. But all I'm going to say is this is needed to happen. Because it basically means that no one could play defense. Because if you walk near somebody in the NBA, they'll just jump into you and draw a foul. But let's see how this is going to work. So, a shooter launcher leans into a defender at an abnormal angle. Offensive player veers off his path into a defender. Thank God. That's the biggest one. That is the biggest one. A shooter kicks his leg up or to the side at an abnormal angle. That's a kind of hard one because some people literally do kick out on their jump shots. But again, I think that should be something that the NBA deals with in a weird, that has to be an offensive foul. I think the players that shoot and they kick, that needs to be an offensive foul because they're putting themselves in danger. They've stopped people going under the shooters, which was mad that there was ever not taken seriously, because shooters are at danger if you land on somebody. Shooters are in huge danger if you land on someone's foot, but you're also putting yourself in danger if you're kicking someone in an attempt to draw a foul. So that should be an offensive foul. An offensive player's arm hooks a defender in the process of making attempting shot in a non-bounce manner. Oh, so the sweep through isn't going to be a call anymore. That's an interesting one. That is an interesting one. So if you want to know what the sweep through is, basically a defender has their hand out, and what ends up happening is so many players, they will like whatever, they'll like fake it. Kevin Durant's the best I've ever seen at doing this. He will bring the ball to like this side. He'll bring the ball to like this side of his head, and then he'll see the hand out in the middle, and whatever way he'll kind of like fake sweep his hand through the hands and draw a foul. Like I've never seen, because of the way how hard it is to guard KD and how tall he is and how close you have to be to him to contest him because of his height. He's so good at that. But I'm glad that it's not a rule. I'm glad that it's a rule that you can't do it anymore. And this is one of the things where it's like, I'll never begrudge Trae Young for taking advantage of the rules, James Harden for taking advantage of the rules. A lot of people are going at them individually. No, they just took advantage of the basketball rules the way they are right now. A lot of players, Dwayne Wade, one of my favorite players of all time, man, he bent the rules. He bent the rules as much as possible, but he took advantage of the rules. I'm glad that the rules have changed. I just hope the referees are consistent. So again, this is just showing it off. So this one apparently is a no call right now, where Julius Randle fakes and jumps into Rudy Gobert. That was given as a no call in the bubble. That is the worst example I've ever seen, because that is the most obvious no call ever, because I don't know if Rudy Gobert made contact. Like, that is the worst one to use. There are so many better options. That is the worst clip they could have used. And this one's an interesting one that I saw. So this is now going to be an offensive foul. And I can see it, but I don't think this is a clip that 2K, or not 2K, I'm so used to saying 2K, blaming them, that the NBA should have used. But you can look at this one right here. Steph jumps into, this is an offensive foul because he clocks him in the face with a shoulder. Like, that's why this is an offensive foul. Because look what happens right here. He clocks him in the face with a shoulder. So that is clearly an offensive foul. But it says he uses right shoulder and hip to dislodge the defender. But this clip, what Steph Curry is trying to do is jump in front and put his body in the way. They haven't addressed what happens if an offensive player is running in a straight line and a defensive player cuts in front of them, does what Steph Curry does there, except he does it a half second earlier. Like, if Steph makes his move a half a second earlier, or DiVincenzo's a half a meter back, what will end up happening was that Steph ends up getting position and DiVincenzo runs through his back, which is what Steph's trying to do. So this is a bad one, because again, this was an offensive foul before the rule. These are bad examples to show, because this was a no call before the rule, and regardless of rule change, this is an offensive foul anyway. But it is going to be a very interesting one. I want to see how refs call it. I really want to see how refs call it, and I would like to see them kind of bring in some FIBA refs. Like with referees, again, they're constantly working on the rules. They're constantly working on their craft. And that's one thing, if you've never refereed a basketball game before, you don't realize that the top referees, how much effort they put into it. They're constantly watching everything. These NBA refs are looking at the NBA players, they're looking at game tape every day to see what tendencies players have, what way they're trying to almost manipulate the rules, what players are likely to do. And I hope that in some of their like referee training, they do bring in some FIBA refs to teach them how to referee this specific rule, because it's something that I think for a couple of years you're still going to see a little bit of it. It's going to be called inconsistently. I think it's hard because it's such a change, it's such a drastic change, that I think it will be very, very hard for a couple of years for the referees to be able to call it consistently. But again, I'm someone who refereed as a part-time job from 16 to like 20 before YouTube took off. So maybe I'm looking at this as a little bit sympathetic towards referees when most people haven't, but I'm interested to see what happens. I really am. So this rule, I think guys like Trae Young are going to be affected. I think the smaller guards are going to be really affected, because the likes of Trae Young, his body control is so good, and he's able to kind of force defenders into jumping into him. But I wonder what's going to happen now. Are they going to have to get a little bit closer and jump and end up risking hurting themselves to try to draw the fouls by jumping straight up instead of just jumping into them and taking it? It's going to be an interesting one. It is. I wonder what way the game of basketball is going to change from this. Because there still is a place for small point guards. We saw with Patty Mills in the Olympics. But there's a lot of guys that are going to have to change their game. A lot of people And the weird thing is that I think the best people at drawing fouls in the NBA, the likes of the Trae Youngs of the world, the James Hardens of the world, they're good enough players that they'll adapt. It might take them a while, but they'll adapt. It was like when the NBA stopped hand checking. It's not like everyone was saying, oh, it was way, way harder to score before hand checking before they got rid of hand checking. When in reality, almost every single player's points per game remained the exact same the next year. It just took a little bit of an adjustment on the defensive end, and scoring remained the exact same. It was just you had to play defense in a slightly different way. And these guys, I think, are good enough that they will adapt their game. But the one big thing is if this stops, constant free throw shooting. Like, no, as much as basketball is a great sport to watch, as much as the NBA is the best level of basketball in the world, there's no question about that. Anyone who says that EuroLeague is, you might enjoy more watching EuroLeague, but anyone who says EuroLeague better is crazy. I'm not even that crazy to say that. But we all saw in the playoffs how annoying it was to watch free throw contests. And hopefully this puts a stop to that. So anyway, yeah, that's the video. This is a huge rule, lads. Huge rule. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.